It is genuinely impressive how quickly the internet has expanded and how much it has changed our lives as we know them. How we socialize, date, develop relationships, and simply meet is very different from how it was even a few years ago. Social media provides us with quick access and a chance to communicate with people we would not have otherwise met, bridging gaps between people worldwide. These days, it would be difficult to find someone who has never used dating apps or social media to meet new people. According to a survey, 1 in 3 relationships begin online. Tinder is the most popular dating app, with over 75 million users globally. With up to 1.6 billion swipes made daily by those users, it's logical to assume that many want to connect with and meet new people. Ashlyn Black, a 25-year-old fashion and outdoor enthusiast who loved antique stores, camping, and Nirvana music, was among the millions of users. Living in Layton, Utah, she was employed as a carer for young children who had difficulties with their schooling or development. According to her relatives, she enjoyed lending her voice to others who might have found it more challenging to advocate for themselves, and she was naturally good at it. Ashlyn's family stated she had a deep desire to become a mother and couldn't wait to do it. Everyone claimed that her plan was always to adopt, and that her decision was undoubtedly influenced by her work as a carer. She exuded kindness, patience, and warmth, and everyone felt at ease in her presence due to her contagious laugh. Like many others, Ashlyn browsed and swiped through Tinder on May 23, 2020. Soon after, she matched with Ethan Hunziker, a 24-year-old single parent who had recently filed for divorce and was renting a house alone. The two hit it off immediately and planned to go out to dinner and cocktails that evening. Ethan picked Ashlyn up from her house at about 9 o'clock at night. Before returning to Ethan's residence, the two went to a nearby pub where they spent almost 4 hours. 3:19 a.m. Several hours later,
We have a male on the line saying he wants to die and that he killed someone. He doesn't know who he has killed, but that it occurred at that address.
I suspect wants us to shoot him. Blood on the floor, looks unconscious, not moving.
Ashlyn was lying face down in one of the bedrooms, her entire body covered in stab wounds. Although paramedics tried everything to save her, it was unsuccessful. At the scene, Ashlyn Black was declared deceased. Ethan's body was covered in scratches and marks, and it was obvious that he had caused them when the second police officer arrived. According to Ethan, after their evening out, the two returned and shared a bed before nodding out. He claimed that Ashlyn was dozing off on his arm when he awoke. Ashlyn attempted to resist him, but he suddenly began choking her as hard as he could for approximately a minute. While she was unconscious on the ground, Ethan went to the kitchen, got a knife, bent over her, and began stabbing her. Before dialing 911, he claimed to have witnessed her bleed out for roughly 10 minutes.
With news of a 25-year-old stabbed to death while on a Tinder date. Here's where it happened. It happened at the suspect's home at 1319 North Reed Drive in Layton. Police say dispatch first got the call early. This was about 3:20 in the morning. And Nicole, this is a story that is hard to make sense of. What are you learning tonight?
Well, Nick, we've been talking to neighbors this evening, and they say it's very hard to even come to grips that something like this has happened in their neighborhood.
It's just weird, to be honest, because we've lived here over 2 years, and I love living here. It's a relatively quiet neighborhood. Guys with like hazmat suits and booties on were over there. That's not like your typical scene you wake up to.
Coleman says he would see Ethan outside from time to time.
I waved at him a couple times mowing his lawn, and he seemed like an all right guy.
Super scary. I mean, you kind of hear about these things, but they're not necessarily 3 houses down from you.
Officers located a female lying on the floor of the home, having sustained multiple stab wounds to the torso. The motive behind the homicide is under further investigation. However, the attack appears to have been unprovoked.
The 24-year-old woman, who police have not identified yet, died at the scene.
Even after his admission, the officers could not understand how this happened. Ethan said they were hitting it off and that the date went well. There hadn't been any uncontrollable fights or arguments. Ashlyn passed away when they were sleeping 1 minute. However, Ethan quickly stated directly that the only reason he had brought Ashlyn over was to murder her. He claimed that when he picked her up that evening, he was aware that he would kill her if she returned to his home. When they apprehended him, he seemed unoccupied and peaceful. He was brought into detention and kept there without being given any kind of bond.
Tonight, police have identified the woman stabbed to death on a Tinder date. Ashlyn Black of Layton was 25 years old. In the last year, she is the second young woman here in Utah killed by a man that she met on a dating app.
In a statement, Black's family called her accused killer a monster. Hunsaker is being held without bond and faces charges, including first-degree murder. Chris Martinez, CBS.
He quickly entered a not guilty plea to Ashlyn's murder, shocking everyone. When word got out about what had transpired, some people who knew Ethan were shocked, but others weren't as shocked. After a brief stint with a concrete company, Ethan Hunsaker's manager said that he quickly interacted one-on-one with clients due to his gregarious nature. However, other coworkers mentioned that there looked to be a problem. Following his divorce from his ex-wife, he showed a marked shift in behavior. He started to withdraw and eventually started showing up to work late or not at all. A few months later, Ethan was let go following an alleged altercation with a female coworker, the specifics of which are still unknown. People claimed he expressed a desire to harm and abduct women, as well as making several dark and menacing remarks. He also mentioned experiencing thoughts of murder and suicide. Ethan's supervisor said, "I guess he was just this silly little kid who always made us laugh. That was always saying something dumb. Then it was just strange at the end of last year. He turned from being a hoot to someone no one wanted to be around." He went on to say that he wasn't really surprised by the reason he had been arrested. Autumn, a lady, also stood up and shared her tale. She added that, up until just 1 week before Ashlyn's death, Ethan had been inundating her with texts and messages on social media. The two had known each other for roughly 11 years after meeting through an old employer. Autumn mentioned that they had a friendly beginning to things and would hang together throughout their lunch breaks. She declared that she didn't want a relationship with him and that she hadn't given him any cause to think they were more than simply friends. However, Ethan began making advances on her in 2019. Autumn kept coming up with excuses, and eventually, she would stop talking to him altogether, but he would still find other methods to communicate with her on other platforms.
Daly actually worked with the alleged killer back in 2009. Now, they were friendly, they never dated, but she says it wasn't until last year that he started bombarding her with text messages trying to meet up. She was trying to be nice and let him know that she wasn't interested. The most recent text was actually last week. She says she never felt that she was in danger or that he was aggressive, but that he was very persistent.
I did get a weird vibe, and I think that's kind of what stopped me from ever hanging out with him.
From Instagram to Snapchat.
Overbearing. Just can't take no for an answer.
Autumn Daly says his text messages were all the same.
In this last month, it's been like every other day, him asking me to make plans or do something.
She often didn't respond, and when she did, she politely declined the invitations, even one asking for her to come to his house.
He had mentioned that he just feels like he has no one to talk to and he doesn't have any friends, and that's kind of why he was reaching out to me so often.
And when she heard the news of what had happened over the weekend, she was shocked.
I've known him for 11 years, and that could have been me.
She says she's glad she followed her gut, but is heartbroken for the family who lost their daughter to this senseless crime.
I feel lucky and blessed, like someone was out looking out for me, but I also feel for her family and for her, because I just can't even imagine what she went through during those moments and what her family's going through.
Such a heartbreaking situation. Now, Daly says that he had mentioned that he was going through a divorce, which is something that she believes is the reason why he wanted to connect with someone. Now, Dave, a quick search of his criminal history shows that he really doesn't have anything in his record. But again, trying to piece together everything that's happened in the last couple of days.
This is one of those cases where it's not a mystery, right? But it's more about why did it happen and how should the system of justice deal with it. You've got someone who's homicidal and suicidal, clearly dealing with some mental issues, which will play a role and a huge part in the way this man is defended, but for the victim's family, I mean, think about what happened here. She's just going out on a Tinder date. Hours later, an atrocious crime scene, but it seems like investigators have enough to put all of this together. So the issue will be the mental state of the defendant now and what his mental state was at the time of this alleged killing. But as I said, as he gets into court, we should get much more information about the evidence and the manner and cause and everything else associated in that case. So we'll continue to track that one for you right here on Court.
The Utah Domestic Violence Coalition's Liz Solis drew attention to the fact that many individuals were blaming Ashlyn rather than Ethan on social media. It's crucial to remind people that the victim is not at fault in any way. It makes no difference where, when, or how the victim and the offender first met. The criminal made the choice to carry out the violent crime.
Victim advocates like Jen Oxborough are concerned that on social media, people are blaming the victim.
It doesn't matter what anyone chooses to do, they never deserve to be hurt or killed.
Oxborough says people using dating apps is not the problem.
This is something that's a reality. This is how people date, and Tinder is the most frequently used dating app that I'm aware of in our culture right now.
She says this case highlights the ongoing problem of violence perpetrated against women by men they know or trust.
And so we need to remember that this was a choice to enact violence by the person who perpetrated the violence, and that's where the responsibility lies.
Just over 1 year later, June 2021, fresh information in the case of a young woman who was brutally killed while out on a first date. The accused murderer entered a guilty plea. Ethan Hunsaker modified his not guilty plea to the satisfaction of Ashlyn's family, despite the prosecution's refusal to make a plea bargain. In the end, he entered a guilty plea to murder as well as a mental illness plea. His attorneys asked that his mental state be taken into account when determining the appropriate sentence. After being evaluated by multiple physicians, Ethan was found to have severe alcohol use disorder, recurring psychotic characteristics, generalized anxiety disorder, and significant depressive disorder.
Case for the family.
Joshua Egan is the attorney for Ashlyn's family, and today that family is feeling some relief. This morning, Hunsaker pleaded guilty to first-degree murder.
There is a strong sense of relief that the case is finally progressing. Again, it's been in limbo for over a year now, without really clear direction where it was going to go.
Hunsaker also pleaded mentally ill. Prosecutors say that doesn't change the fact that he still could spend the rest of his life behind bars.
Doesn't exonerate them or excuse the conduct at all. It holds defendants accountable by giving them an appropriate sentence. But if there's specialized treatment that is needed because of their mental illness, then it addresses that as well.
We determined that a plea offer would not be appropriate, and that the defendant should plead guilty to murder, or that we should take the case to trial.
The judge stated that his mental state at the time of Ashlyn's murder was unimportant, but he did agree to consider it while determining the appropriate sentence. As a result, the judge had some alternatives. There were 3 options available to him. He could be sent directly to prison, treated for 18 months at the state hospital before being moved to prison, or treated indefinitely at the Utah State Hospital. Ethan Hunsaker was given a murder sentence of 15 years to life in February 2022 by a judge. However, he had to spend 18 months receiving therapy in the state hospital before starting his jail term. The judge expressed his hope that Ethan would receive the assistance he needed, but he clarified that this was not the main reason he was approving the course of treatment. He claimed that he was worried about the other prisoners and the guards there, fearing that Ethan would harm more people and that this action would provide more protection for them. The judge apologized, saying that the court was limited in many ways. Still, Ashlyn's mother felt that the court had not been considerate of their family's needs and feelings while ensuring that accommodations were made for the person who had violently taken Ashlyn away from them. According to Ashlyn's relatives, the crime was both wicked and stupid. Because of the heinous deeds of another, our lives are irrevocably altered, and our hearts are broken. A wonderful, lively young woman who was passionate about speaking up for people who could not speak for themselves passed away. Her family and friends' lives are irrevocably changed. Ashlyn's sister stated in court, "We haven't talked about Ashlyn. We still haven't discussed her identity or her influence on the world. She was a kind individual who made every effort to be a good person. It's undeniably true that Ashlyn Black was already having a huge influence on a great number of individuals, including young lives. It is crucial that we honor her as the unselfish, caring, and compassionate 25-year-old that she was. According to her father, she always had a special gift for being late for everything, but he said he would give up anything to wait for her if it meant she would come back through the door to see him. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and press the bell icon, and thank you for watching.